afternoon, sir. Welcome aboard our flight.
Hi, Jun.
May
Wow.
I take you to your seat?
Delightful. Thank you for this lovely lunch. What a wonderful spread you have.
And aren't you surprised?
And I'm really pleasantly surprised that you can fit into this old uniform after so many years.
Not only you, I'm equally surprised because I was trying to dig out my uniform. When we left the airlines, we have to do a handover. Then we have to hand back, return all our uniforms, right?
Right.
Of course, I had done the clearance already, so SQ don't come after me for this uniform, you know. When years later, when I was clearing all the old clothes, I found this set of uniform. So I thought, what a good chance, you know, for me to wear this because I have a special guest who has flown so many years with SQ. I think it's almost 40 years.
40 years, yes.
40 years. Cheers. Cheers, Captain. You know, any captains that have left the airlines, I have continued to address them by captain. I just cannot do away with this habit. It's just stuck there, you know. Cheers, cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for making time. Cheers.
My pleasure.
So obviously, before I chat with Captain on all his experiences with the airlines, let me not starve you because you have waited so long for the brunch. Now today we are having a champagne brunch. We just want to relax and enjoy this Sunday a bit, you know. So it is a good thing to have a little bit of champagne.
Yes.
Together with some dim sum. Now today, let me introduce your drink. I've gotten you a hot beverage, which is ginger milk tea. And I've gotten myself this, it is very nicely decorated like this. I have to show the viewers, you know, this is what our restaurant is proud of. It is a yuzu orange juice, freshly squeezed orange. Your main course, I've arranged for you fish and chips. We have used a very good fish, which is the barramundi fish. And I'm having the tang zai tuk, which is in Hong Kong, the boatman porridge. And this is what our locals like, but this is fried with XO sauce. It's like Thai khao kueh. Lastly, we have a dim sum platter. Just a little bit of some of what we have to serve today.
You're putting on a first class meal, just like the old days in the first class, where we have different selections.
You know, when you talk about first class meal, there's something I always miss, and that is the caviar. You know, when last time we always served caviar in the first class, and most of the time, especially a long flight, the passengers would normally not eat. So, which left we have a lot of balanced caviar in the galley, and definitely as a crew, it is part of the tasting session. So we will just try caviar, you know, especially when we are new. And during training days, I think we are being trained how to serve caviar. Of course, we tasted them, you know. That is what I miss most.
Oh, yeah. Well, for the pilots, you know, we have to position sometimes from one place to another.
Right.
And we are given first class seats. So we also enjoy the first class cuisine.
Oh, that is when you're not flying.
We're not flying.
So it is like when you have to positioning to another station to take over another set of crew.
Right. That's when we can relax in the cabin. And we get served by people like you.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last time we have the privilege of sitting in the cockpit. We call jump seat, right?
Yes.
Jump seat to actually witness or experience takeoff and landings.
A lot of things have changed, you know, since
That's true.
What we call the good old days.
Good old days.
Good old days.
That said, I really feel that those were the good old days. Because during my time, I think it is the best era of flying days. Because there were more night stops. Because flight frequencies are not that often. So meaning at each station you get more rest days before the next flight.
Right.
Yeah. So we enjoy. I really enjoyed those years of flying. Of course, looking at my uniform, you will know that I'm not a junior crew then, because I flew for quite a while, long enough, to see the world. And I was happy as a young girl, managed to get into the airline as a stewardess. I was so elated, because it is something that every young girl aspired to become during those days. Yeah, so I was lucky.
Did you fly the Boeing 707?
I think it was the 747.
You started
when
on
I started,
747.
yes. A lot of chores are harder because it is not automated. A lot of the service is also more personal and more manual. More than right now, everything is like given to you on a tray.
Yeah, it's
personal.
more restaurant service, I would
Yes.
think. Because in the first class, we don't have business class in the early days.
Yes.
It's either you go first class or economy class.
Yes.
And
I
you-
still remember, Captain, the first class seats, the footrest, we have to pull it out. It is not automated.
Yeah, and you have to serve course by course, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
From hors d'oeuvre to cheese and desserts, nothing is missed.
Yes, those good old days. And I recall that on our first jet that we flew, which was the Comet 4, our international flights then were only to Hong Kong, and the furthest point was Taipei.
Right.
So early days is only Singapore, Hong Kong, and back. And
So there were no such thing as domestic or international. It is just flights from where to where,
Yeah.
And during those days, I think it's not Singapore Airlines even. It's called
Malaysian Airways.
Malaysian
Limited,
Airways.
MAL.
See, yeah.
Yeah, and we only on the Comets, I think we only have 5 cabin crew
Oh,
and 3 tech crew, the captain, co-pilot, and flight engineer.
right.
And after
And how many
landing,
passengers?
how many passengers? 60.
Oh, only 60
Only
as
60.
compared to the jumbos
Now it's more.
and the A380. I think they take as many as 300.
More than
Or more.
300, 400 plus.
I have forgotten. Yeah.
Yes, and
Too
what
long
a change.
ago. Too long ago.
And you can see that the crew interaction then
Yes.
was much better than what it is today, because you hardly know who you're flying with today.
Really?
By the old days,
Right? We
there
know
only
everyone.
8 of us, we know everyone.
Yes,
And
that's
they used
true.
to bring champagne, not consumed by the passengers.
Right.
After we shut down, after landing,
Right.
after we finish our duty, and the chief steward will bring in 3 glasses of champagne for us.
Wow.
And we used to call that thrust reverser.
Oh,
That's the name we
thrust
give to the
reversal.
to the champagne.
It is, I think, in every flight that you landed successfully and smoothly, it always calls for a champagne because it is, don't take it for granted, So, yes, cheers to
It's a
that.
celebration for a good,
Celebration.
safe landing.
Thank you so much for
Cheers.
taking us on all the smooth flights during my years. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Just
So apart from your job, your main role, which is to fly the aircraft,
Yes.
when you are also a chief pilot, what is the difference? What are additional roles?
chief pilot, basically, chief pilot is in charge of all the pilots on that fleet. Right?
On that fleet only,
Yes.
not
And
all the pilots.
Not all the pilots. Each fleet has got its own chief pilot.
I see.
Okay. So if you're a 747 chief pilot, then basically you're in charge of the 747 pilots.
Oh, the fleet, yes.
Yeah. And the chief pilot has, on top of the normal flying duties, he has administrative duties. He's responsible for the safety, security, and procedures and policies, the routes that the pilots fly, and for the crew rosters,
Yes.
crew operating patterns.
Yes,
So
right.
the chief pilot has those responsibilities as well, and the day-to-day operations, like in the event of delays, disruptions, decisions have to be made. And
So when you are talking about different fleets, I think it shall mean like 747 is different from A380,
yes,
is different from the big top during then, is different from the mega top.
yes.
So those are what Captain Koh is referring different fleets, right? I believe that when you're assigned to a certain new aircraft, I believe that the captains or the pilots, they all have to go through a training again on the new aircraft.
Yes, you need to be licensed to fly a different type of aircraft. For example, if you're flying an Airbus,
Right.
Airbus 310,
Yes.
and you are now asked to fly an Airbus 380, A380,
Right.
you have to go through a technical course, which
How
we
long
call.
is that?
It varies, from type to type. Normally, it will take about a month.
A month.
Yeah.
So during the training, like for example, you are already flying the mega top.
Yes.
So when A380 is implemented, then all the captains have to be rostered to go through the training.
Yes, you see, that's where crew resource planning comes in.
Yes.
That before the aircraft fleet is introduced, we will make sure that there are enough pilots to man the present fleet by moving pilots from another fleet up, and then we'll earmark the crew that's required to fly the A380. These are some of the duties that the chief pilot oversees. And so it's not all, he's got his plate full, I would say.
Yes, I'm sure.
With
I'm
admin
sure.
duties.
I'm sure. Yeah. Before I ask Captain Freddie on his most scary flight and some accidents and incidents pertaining to SQ's history, I would like you to have some food before they all get cold
Okay.
and can dig into the dim sum. I would like to try this is the carrot cake.
I'll have some of each.
I love the carrot cake. I will introduce you the dim sum. This is ha gao.
Ha Gao,
Ha
yes.
gao, this is mala shao mai. It is a spicy siu mai. Siu mai normally when you go to any restaurant is the normal traditional siu mai, but this is mala siu mai, and then this is the queen. We call it the queen siu mai because queen of prawn, and then in Chinese it's called feng wei. Feng wei is like the prawn, it looks like a feng wei, so we call that the shao mai. Now this is where you see is a swan. It is wu gok. If you know wu gok, the yam pastry. This is the custard lava bun.
Uh-huh.
And this is that looks like an apple. It is an apple custard bun. You have fresh apples in it.
They all look so nice, and
So let's eat before we go on to part 2 of the flying career, the interesting part.
Bon appetit.
So while Captain Freddie is eating, there's this thing I would like to ask Captain Freddie Koh. I remember there were 2 very pronounced accidents or incidents in SQ history. One of them is the hijack case. In 1991, I was still flying then. If you remember, our SQ aircraft was being hijacked in our airport here with four guys, with 4 hijackers.
The KL Singapore flight.
Was it KL Singapore?
Yes.
The other is an accident, which is a Sing Taipei LA flight
Right.
that happened in year 2000. And I've already left the airlines then. I believe you were still in the airlines then.
Yes.
91 and 2000.
Yes.
You have colleagues who were involved in that flight, or
I know the pilots involved. The first one, the hijack, we were not really involved, but more so our security forces, the government security forces,
yes,
took charge of the situation, and they managed to rescue.
and the Sing Taipei LA flight, the accident that happened in 2000.
That
Were you involved?
I was deeply involved in it.
Deeply involved.
Yes.
Were you flying the aircraft?
No. I was the trip pilot, not on that fleet, but I was overall in charge. And when that accident happened, we were all shocked, maybe devastated.
You were not flying the aircraft.
No.
You were not flying, but you are the chief pilot in charge of that.
I was I'm in charge of line operations.
Okay.
Line operations, that means all the other, not specific fleet, but all the happenings on the flight line. And so we had to wait for the reports to come in.
What accident was that? Can you help me?
It was that fateful day, Taipei to LA. Taipei was reporting marginal kind of weather. Visibility was low. So, see, the irony is there are two runways in Taipei, a longer one and a shorter one. Now, that flight, fortunately, I would say, was not a high-load passenger flight. Passengers on the 747-400, we could at that time take up to maybe 390 passengers.
Okay.
It was half filled only. Okay. So that flight
it's supposed to be an easy flight.
could take off from the shorter runway. It could. But because of the weather,
But who assigned the runway?
the air traffic control
Exactly.
assigned the shorter runway.
Yeah.
But the pilot can request.
I see.
Okay, so the pilot correctly requested for the longer runway. Because for safety reasons,
I see.
it was raining, visibility was low. I want greater margin.
Okay.
So that the pilot's request was granted.
Okay.
Instead of going towards a shorter runway, which is a short distance from where the aircraft was parked, they took the longer route to the longer runway.
This is not normal.
It is normal.
It's normal.
It is normal to request for a longer
Okay.
runway. In fact, it's very prudent
Okay.
for the pilot to do that. But unfortunately, that longer runway has got a parallel runway which was not in use.
I see.
Right? So as he taxied out to the runway, he lined up with the runway which was closed, what we call disused runway.
Right.
And the other unfortunate thing, work was in progress on this disused runway.
Okay.
And there was a crane on the runway somewhere down, and that crane was supposed to be moved away when there's a storm came in. So it's a litany of errors. It's not only the pilot's error, there was air traffic control error,
Yes.
there was the crane driver's error,
Right.
who did not move that crane off the runway,
Right.
and there were some other errors. In a disused runway, you would mark it off at the beginning with big crosses. Those crosses were not there for some reason.
So it's the lapse again.
Another lapse, and all this led,
The airport controls lap, I
Yep.
would say. Yeah.
and the pilot's error
Is
also
he went onto the wrong
wrong
run.
runway, and he took off. So halfway down the runway, he saw this crane,
Oh my God.
and at
It's
that
too late.
spur of the
Can
moment,
he
you
reverse
either
perhaps?
reject
Yeah.
the takeoff and crash into the crane, or he attempted to pull up
Okay.
at the speed which was low at that time, but he pulled it up, but unfortunately the tail part of it hit the crane,
Oh dear. Oh
and
dear.
so they came crashing down.
Captain, I know you did not eat much, but I would like to complete the meal with a dessert, where we always do.
Looks lovely.
I will introduce this. This is our tea halia ice cream.
Uh-huh.
That means ginger tea ice cream with red beans. It's very refreshing. And then mine, of course, as a lady, I always like to choose yuzu sorbet. It's supposed to be less fattening, a sorbet with sea coconut. Now, Of course, there are more interesting and exciting stories, but because of time, we can't possibly talk everything within the same day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And before we end the episode, Capt Freddie Koh, I have a small gift for you to thank you for sharing with us your experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, June.
I hope you will make use of this, which I hope you do. If you love wines and all that,
You're
it's
such
a
a
good
good
thing.
host. Not only do I get this spread of good food, I still get a gift.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you. So, with the next episode, I think it is no longer the aviation industry. It is someone who is in the media. You may be keen to find out more about the media industry, and she will be my good friend as well, Miss Lina Quek, who is heading Prestige Magazine, the luxury magazine in Singapore. So look forward to the next episode. See you guys. Dun, 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 dun. This part of Lunch with June, I'm specially going to introduce to you our brand in Kuala Lumpur, BREADSTORY. It is a boutique bakery chain in Kuala Lumpur and Langkawi in Malaysia. We have, right now, I think it's like 23 outlets since 2002. So, with this, for those viewers who are in Malaysia, you will know this is a household brand. For BREADSTORY followers, you know that we have our signature products, tomato bread, durian bread. We also have the mushy rainbow cake, which is the blue and rainbow cake. It is the most all-time favorite. We also have the crispy cookies. The crispy cookies is, you cannot stop at one can. The crispiness of it makes you eating it non-stop. We have 4 flavors: pistachio, coffee, almond chocolate, peanut, crispy cookie, and also cashew nuts. So 4 flavors. Of these 4 flavors, my favorite is still the peanut and the cashew nut. I cannot stop eating. I just can't stop at one container, just one can of it. And of course, to go on, we have all the lovely breads, our waffle range. We have all kinds of waffles, be it sweet or savory. We also have loaves and everything else. Anything you want in a confectionery, look for BREADSTORY.